put the spotlight now on Priestess Redfox. Here we go. So, Priestess Redfox is a witch. She's a priestess and goddess devotee on this path for over 20 years. Every day she learns something new. She is one of the initiated priestesses of the Mount Shasta Goddess Temple and a member of our Council of Wise Women. She's a self-initiated priestess of Aphrodite. In her daily life, she's a teacher in a specialist school for children with autism. She lives in London in the UK, but her heart belongs to Cyprus, home of Aphrodite. The wild urban priestess is here. Tell us about yourself, Redfox, and what you're up to.
Well, can you hear me? I know this is what everyone says every time we start a Zoom meeting. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I mean, also, I don't quite know how I'm going to give my presentation after that. After your presentation, Pat, this is so emotional. But if I'm, kind of all over the place, it's because that is just so incredible. Thank you so much. That honouring of women in human bodies is more than, more than you can express, if I'm honest. And do you understand what she is saying?
Priestess Redfox, just one moment. You know, we're having a little hard time with your microphone. It's coming across a bit fuzzy. Do you think there's a different position you could try, maybe?
Let me just see. I'm not sure what it might be. Let me just have a look in the settings and see.
Are you
using
using the microphone on the device, or are you using the microphone on your headphones?
Let me just put this up. I mean, this isn't going to making any difference.
No, it doesn't.
I need to kind of, I don't know, I'm afraid. Let me just put this. Let me. Oh, I don't know. I'm trying to see because I do Zoom lessons all the time for the students, and my microphone normally works. I'm trying to work out what the problem would be. Let me just move this. Does that help at all? In fact, I've moved my webcam.
I think maybe if you kind of hold the machine back a little further from yourself and just speak slowly, we'll be able to keep up with you as is.
Okay. You let me know. Is it? Can you actually hear me? Are you able? I mean, I do talk very fast, so I'll have to really try and slow down from my usual hectic pace. As long as you can all just about hear me, let me know in the chat if I need to slow down, because I'm naturally one of less. The students at my school always tell me, lift the part. They always like, slow down. I'm just going to light my little candle here for Goddess and Diana here at the beginning of my presentation. So, I'm going to share my screen, and I've made a little kind of condensed version because I know we're kind of like, we have a bit less time. So really, what I'm going to talk to you about, then please let me know if you really can't hear me, because I can type on the PowerPoint to elucidate. And today I'm going to talk to you about my journey with Diana. I'm in a devoted Aphrodite for many years, to really my home belt. Quite recently, Diana has become really, really important in my life. And I'm just going to put you through my journey with her and really discovering her right here on my doorstep of London. So I moved to, I'm just going to share it full screen and hopefully. So I moved to London to Greenwich about 5 years ago. I've lived in North London for nearly 20 years. I moved to Greenwich for work. And within a week, I decided I was going to explore nearby Greenwich Park, which is one of our royal parks, at least I mean. But
So
I
sorry,
didn't really,
sister, to interrupt you. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I have a thought. Do you
yes.
have, if you put your computer on mute and then you bring your phone and you get into the Zoom with your phone, and talk through the phone microphone while showing us the screen, it will probably work better for the sound. I know it'll just take a minute. It's fine. We can totally take the time to make this work. I'm super excited about your presentation and I don't want to miss one word. And if you need it, my Zoom ID is 510-355-7912. And the password is goddess, all caps. And let's see if that helps.
Okay, how
Oh,
about now?
yes, brilliant. Thank you so much, sister. All right, proceed. I'm thrilled.
What's amazing is I can hear my own voice coming back at me 2 seconds later. So if I look a bit disoriented, that's why. Okay, awesome. Let's crack on. So I moved to Greenwich Park, well, near to Greenwich Park, about 5 or 6 years ago, from having lived in North London for about 20 years. And I went to Greenwich Park with my dogs within the first week, but I didn't really explore it very much. Naughty witch. So I only really explored a tiny part of it. And then when the pandemic hit, that gave me the opportunity to really explore the whole park. And what happened relatively early on, ironically, is that my partner and I had a blazing row. I stormed out in epic fashion, knew I needed to clear my head, and I went to Greenwich Park. But rather than following the normal route, I walked with my dog. I headed off and just followed my feet to see what was out there in the park. And before I knew it, I'd arrived in an area of the park I'd never seen before, and I saw, oh, my PowerPoint is frozen. I'm just going to reshare it and probably not make it full screen because that can mean it. There we go. It freezes. So I discovered this sign that said Roman remains, and I was so excited about this because I'm a huge fan of Roman Britain. I've sought out a few sites in London and around the country, so I was incredibly excited about this, and I made a beeline for this site. And I wasn't really sure what the site was going to involve. I thought maybe it would be a wall, you know, or a place where a house or used to be, etc. But when I turned up, when I arrived, I realized that what I was standing before is the site of a Romano-Celtic temple that used to be minutes from my house, just minutes. And I honestly can't describe how I felt when I arrived there. The energy was genuinely palpable. There were a few places I've been in my life where it was almost visibly shimmering with the energy. And to suddenly realize that I was at a site of an ancient Roman temple to the gods, and a temple where the goddess Diana was honored and worshipped. And if I'm honest, words really can't express the sheer elation I felt when I read this sign and realized where I was standing. Obviously, there are sacred sites everywhere. Our ancestors built shrines and temples and stone circles, but so many of our sites are buried now, demolished, destroyed, buried beneath concrete. And I know the actual temple itself is now gone. But the fact that this was the very site that had been identified and I could stand there, it was just genuinely the most beautiful moment. And I sort of reverently walked up onto the raised mound where the temple site used to be. And I felt like I'd slipped into another universe. People were strolling by on their phones, not looking, and I was just standing there. Like I had this amazing, magical, delicious secret that was all mine. This site that was once the site of a temple to Diana. So I then pored over the information sign, and I'm just going to bring up a little bit of the information about this site. So it was first excavated in 1902, and they realized that it was a site of Roman origin, but only in 1999 did Channel 4, one of our TV programs here, Time Team, they did a dig there, they filmed it, and that's when they confirmed it was originally the site of this Romano-Celtic temple. And they found Roman pottery, numerous coins, the remains of a raised temple podium that proved it was actually a temple, and part of a statue that has been widely agreed to be of the goddess Diana. And it's referred to as a Romano-Celtic temple, as it's believed the Romans built, as new cultures and new religions are wont to do. They built their temple on the site of an existing shrine or temple to an existing indigenous British goddess. Who she is, we don't quite know. That's another area of my path that I really want to go down. So here's a few images of the dig that took place in 1999. You can find this online. It's called Time Team Excavation in Greenwich Park, and you can find this program and see them literally uncovering the fact that this used to be a temple to Roman gods, including Diana, just minutes from my house, which is for me just beyond wonderful. So on the sign, they have an artist impression of the original site, and you can see that it used to be a little community space with stalls selling their wares and a stable, and then there's the temple on the artificially created raised mound. And what I love about it is that it was a relatively humble temple. We're not talking grand, lofty, looming marble columns. It was just a beautiful, humble local temple for people to pay their respects to the gods and to Diana. And here's another kind of more sophisticated artist's impression, and you can see the temple here on the left. And I like how they've put it in modern day, because there's modern London, there's the O2 in the background. If only it was here right now. But we just have to rebuild it energetically, which is really my passion project that I'm currently doing right now. So one of the items that they excavated, you can see there that I've circled in red, is this little female figure. It's only part of it, a female figure that they believe represents victory. So I went home and I did my research, and I found out that she is in the British Museum right here in my home city. And it's a controversial museum, you know, the British Museum, but I can't help loving it because of the artifacts that are available for me to see whenever I like. And I wanted to go and see her so much, but we were in the middle of a pandemic. Everything was closed for a long time. So eventually, after months, when the lockdown ended and I was able to go, I went to the British Museum and had to scour it. And I finally found her. This is my photo of this female representation of victory. that is in the British Museum. And she's very small, just fits in the palm of your hand. But after looking at her on that sign for months, because I go there very regularly, and then seeing her for real was genuinely just such a beautiful moment. So before I go on to tell you about the project I've now started with this temple site, I thought I'd really briefly talk about the goddess Diana herself. And many of you will obviously know her very well, but for anyone who is new to goddess spirituality or new to Diana, just a little bit about her. So as most of us, I'm sure we know, she's probably best known as the Roman counterpart to the Greek goddess Artemis, predominantly associated with hunting, wild animals, the moon, and her most sacred animals were deer, bears, and hunting dogs, which is very special to me because I have 2 little hunting dogs of my own. So she actually first appears in Ovid's Metamorphoses in 8 AD. And this is all research I've done really in the past year or 2 since she called to me, because she wasn't really on my radar before. But I just love this passage from Metamorphoses where it says, Diana, tired with hunting, warm with the burning sun, found a cool grove where a stream went murmuring over the smooth sands. She praised the place. She dipped her feet in the water. How pleasant it was. She called to her companions. No one can see us here. Let us jump in naked. And I love this because if you ever want to connect with Diana, you just need to go skinny dipping. This is something I've done for many years. I grew up in Cornwall, near Dartmoor. My parents live on Dartmoor, and my sisters and I, my mother, regularly go to Dartmoor, strip all our clothes off and hurl ourselves into the frequently freezing rivers on Dartmoor. But it's a thing in our family. My dad stays home and watches the cricket. But now to know that all these years of plunging into the wild waters and going skinny dipping in rivers on Dartmoor and woodlands was actually a connection with Diana is just absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. So she's also found in the Bible. This is what I found in my research. I also really like this quote because it talks about the Ephesians, for who we see the worship of Diana was incredibly important. And then in Acts 19:28, it says that they became very angry and they began to riot. And they were chanting, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians." And I just love this. And when they heard these sayings, they were full of wrath and cried out, saying, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians." And now I feel like whenever you feel like having a bit of a riot, which I feel like women should do much more often, is absolutely start off your riot with, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians." Yeah, every time you fancy a little bit of a riot, I feel like that should be the chant. Or, you know, when you've run out of coffee or other things that make you mad, when my students haven't done my homework. Great is Diana of the Ephesians. So this is a fun fact, is that we think of the Roman gods and goddesses as being all centered in Rome. But what in my journey with her I discovered is actually the worship of her is not centered in Rome at all. She really wasn't one of the main goddesses worshipped in Rome. She was actually more of an outlier. And the most famous place of worship for her was the grove of Diana Nemorensis, Diana of the Wood, on the shores of Lake Nemi at Etruria near Rome. So this is what I also love about Diana, and this is the site here that is now obviously number 1 on my list of places that I need to visit, of the many, this was the main site of her worship. So not in Rome at all, actually in Woodlands. And there are modern day pagans who frequently do rituals here to reclaim her at this very site. They do it annually on her sacred day, which is August the 13th. And I was like, I need to do this too. But rather than having to get on a plane to Rome all the time, maybe I can do it right here in my own city, 5 minutes up the road. So that is really my plan, is to call her back here in Greenwich, where her temple used to be. So yeah, this is my passion project, because for me it's so important that we call her back. And really, this temple site became such a place of solace for me during the pandemic. My school was closed. My partner is extremely clinically vulnerable, so we didn't see anyone or do anything for a long time. But I did go to this temple site almost every day. We would go there and we would walk our dogs, and I would sit, talk to Diana, talk to the ancestors, chant, sing. And after a while, I realized that I wasn't just sort of going there. I was actually building her energetic temple. And that's a photo of me there invoking her at the site with my 2 little hunting dogs, who are now Diana's hunting dogs, right there with me at the site. So we've been holding a few small ceremonies and rituals here. This was our Beltane celebration, and this was the offerings that I left afterwards, the cherry blossom and the strawberries for Diana, but also for the crows, who are absolutely my companions in that park. They are fiercely intelligent, and if you feed them once, you need to feed them always, because now when I go to the park, they find me and they shout at me if I haven't bought any food. So they've also become an absolute part of this whole reclaiming the temple experience. So hunting dogs are absolutely sacred to Diana, and here is one of mine. This is Louis, and we introduced him when we first found the site to Diana and dedicated him to her, whether he liked it or not. And then we got a new one. This is Lola, who is sleeping right here, and I'm just gonna bring her in. So we only got her last year, Louis and Lola, and you can see them both there being dedicated to Diana as her sacred hunting dog. She's very sleepy because she's on her first season right now, so she's like, what's happening? So I'm going to put her back to bed. There we go. So right, sorry, I've really rushed through, but really for me this is all about continuing to build her energetic temple there. So I currently have my website dedicated to this site that's under construction. I hold small rituals there with myself, my partner, a couple of friends, plus the dogs, obviously. And once the summer is here, and now we're sort of fully out of lockdown, I very much plan to hold bigger rituals, bigger ceremonies at this site to raise awareness about Diana, about Goddess, and about the importance of sacred sites. And for me, this is very much about bringing back Goddess consciousness, because I truly believe that Goddess is returning. And I write about this quite a lot on my website, my social media, is that I truly believe that a return to Goddess is the path that humanity, we need to take. And I don't mean anyone has to relinquish their current religion or belief system or atheism, because for me, Goddess consciousness is about understanding that the very earth we walk upon is sacred, and the divine feminine is sacred, and every breath and every stone and every tree and every drop of water is absolutely part of the web, and we are part of that web, and what we do to the web we do to ourselves. And I feel like humanity, somewhere along the way, we lost goddess consciousness, and we need to bring it back, to bring us back from ultimately what feels like the brink for the human race. And this world where we seem to have this kind of toxic combination of patriarchy and capitalism, and I'm like, what is the way forward? It isn't just recycling. For me, it's goddess and goddess consciousness, and seeing the world as sacred and bringing her back, calling her name, reclaiming her sacred sites, building her energetic temples that's my part in doing that. So ultimately, I would love any of you to join me every Saturday, unless it's chucking it down with rain, which it frequently is in England. I go to the site and I call her in, and I raise energy to build her energetic temple. And this chant I use, and I'm going to chant it now 3 times, and I would absolutely love it if you chanted along with me, and or even just visualize the site and just think about creating this energetic temple, raising this temple to call her back. So I'm going to do it 3 times, and this is what I do at the site every Saturday. Diana, Diana, goddess of the wild, I stand here as your priestess and as your child. Once again, you are honored in this place. I recreate your temple and your sacred space. 2nd time. Diana, Diana, goddess of the wild, I stand here as your priestess and as your child. Once again, you are honored in this place. I recreate your temple and your sacred space. 3rd time. Diana, Diana, goddess of the wild, I stand here as your priestess and your child. Once again, you are honored in this place. I recreate your temple and your sacred space. So I say this every Saturday at the site, apart from when it's raining, when I stay home. But if at any point on a Saturday you want to join me at any time during the day to say this chant, to visualize the site, and to just visualize those glowing walls of her energetic temple being built, I'd love for you to help me to call her back in. And I've written about her on my current website, which I'd love you to take a read, and share if possible, if you like. And I've currently got a website under construction just for Diana and this site, bringing Diana back right here in the center of London, in the concrete jungle. She's coming back. I did have some little videos, but I'll put them on the app instead, for you guys to watch. So if you want to check out my adventures or learn more about the site, my website is www.wildurbanpriestess.com. And you can also find me on Twitter. I tweet like mad. So my Twitter is @urban_priestess. So sorry I rattled through that. But thank you so much for listening. Pop some questions in the chat and I will happily spend some time answering them. But yes, thank you for just being here to add the energy to the raising of the Diana Temple here in London. Watch this space because she's coming back.
Thank you so much, Redfox. I'm gonna